Hello and welcome back to another popcorn chat. Hope you guys are doing well. In this video, I'm going to speak to you about Damien Chazelle's latest film, Babylon. So the film follows various characters around the era of silent films and leading us into the era of talkies, and we follow various characters in their rise and fall along the way and how this sort of turn of an era affects their personal lives. Like many others, what drew me into this film was its cast. Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, Tobey Maguire, Diego Calva, so many great actors are in this film. I was going to go and see it, regardless, and it's been having a lot of Oscar buzz, and obviously Chazelle, the Oscars do love Chazelle, so I was going to check it out, and I took myself to the cinema on a Sunday morning and went to saw it at 11 a.m. And good thing is I didn't eat, because in the first 5 minutes there's something that happens that really could have churned my stomach. But yeah, let's get into the rest of the video. Chazelle has created his own style within his films, and that can be seen here from his handheld camera work, the classic whip pans, and just sort of the chaotic editing. He definitely has that in this film that carries on. Maybe it's not as heavy on those as some of his previous films, so that worked for me because I find that quite distracting at times. But this time I was like, oh yeah, I can sink into this film unaware, and then the occasional whip pan would happen. What was great in this film was there was a lot of choreography and set pieces. You can see that in those longer takes where the camera manoeuvres through the scene, and there's clearly a lot of actors and extras who've had to learn their part in order to make this work and rehearse. And it pays off. I think those scenes are some of the better scenes, and they happen a lot more towards the beginning of the film, in the big party, and sort of in other sort of social situations. So I loved those moments. The whole atmosphere and this sort of bohemian kind of feel was excellent, especially in that first sort of 20 minutes of this sort of big sort of house party. It had very much, the sort of Great Gatsby, cabaret. It had all these kind of elements that I loved. I could just feel myself sort of loving that sort of first act, the film, before the title even comes on. I absolutely loved everything in that first act, and the whole aesthetic, the costume, the music, the hair design. It was all there. It just really took you back to that era of the 1920s. Chazelle is clearly a fan of music. We've seen it in his previous films, Whiplash and La La Land, and he uses it in both in his score and in his character through Sydney, who is a trumpet player, and he's one of the characters that we follow within this film. And his use of score throughout helps to sort of intensify, dramatise, take you back to the 1920s. It works so well. I'm definitely going to be listening to the score after watching this film. Obviously, everyone does a great performance. It was nice to see Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt on screen together again after their working collaboration on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm so glad to see Margot Robbie get a much bigger role than she did in that film. I think everyone played their part. I'd never seen Diego in a film, but I think he did a great job in carrying this as a lead actor. This film very much has a lot of appearances. You're going to spot a lot of people in the background, a lot of character actors who you're going to recognise, that lead you to laugh, feel quite emotional. It's all there. I think everyone brings a great performance to this film and plays their part in Chazelle's choreographed chaos. Babylon seems to be dividing people. Not a lot of people are liking it, but I thought it was generally pretty good. But I do have a few negatives with it. It's not perfect at all. I do think that last act is a bit sort of doesn't really match with the character and the script. Everything else in the first two acts, it feels a little bit bizarre. It feels a weird ending. There's a nice montage at the end, but everything sort of in that third act leading up to that point feels a little bit out of place to me. For some reason, there's a lot of toilet humour in this film, and it didn't work for me at all. It just made it really bizarre and childish. But there's one point where it does work with Margot Robbie's character, where she's at this sort of very formal social party. But I won't tell you what happens, but I found that hilarious, and I don't think anyone else was laughing in the cinema. But the rest of it, like farts and poos and burps and spitting, didn't like that. That was really bizarre and felt out of place in terms of the tone of the film. Yes, there's comedic parts in it because they're deliberate, in terms of character and, dialogue, but cut the toilet humour, folks. I don't want to see that. And then the sort of final observation was I saw the trailer a few times. Obviously, I try and avoid the trailers, but when I did, I noticed obviously Tobey Maguire is in it, and he has this sort of evil laugh, and I was like, that feels a bit out of place. When his character's in it, he didn't feel as creepy as I wanted him to. I didn't really see the relevance in that sort of section of the story. It didn't really add to the whole sort of plot or sort of character moments. I get it gets them from one place to another, sort of forcing them to leave. However, it just felt bizarre. I think they could have done that a little bit better and used him, because I think he played that sort of creepy character quite well, but I don't think it was written well to sort of show off his capabilities. All in all, I had a good time with this film. Maybe I saw it in a good mood. Maybe I'm just seeing something that other people aren't. But on my first viewing of this film, seeing it in the cinema, I enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you so much for watching this review of Babylon. Let me know your thoughts down below if you've seen Damien Chazelle's latest film. I'd love to hear your thoughts, be it good or bad. All my links to social media are down below as well, so make sure you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm everywhere. You can follow me on all those channels. It's going to be pretty much the same, either Popcorn Chat or Sarah's Popcorn Chat. I also have a Patreon, so if you'd like to sign up, feel free to do that, but by no means there's any pressure at all. But the link is down below for that as well, and you can check out all the details on what you can get from that on the Patreon link. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon for another Popcorn Chat.